All right, well, here we go. This time we are going to be looking at technical skill packaging your files. And this you'll find under saving abilities. And this is the one right here. The final folder is archived for correct and complete, or is correct and complete, including working files, fonts, and all elements. This is a very important part of your technical skills because if you ever share your files with somebody or if you ever need to take it to another computer or whatever, you need to package it correctly in order for the next person to actually be able to open the stuff that you've been working on. So I'm going to show you two places to do it. One will be InDesign and one will be Illustrator, and we'll go through each setting and why it's important step at a time here. So I'm going to open up a file with InDesign here. And here we have a past skills project. And this file, even though it's not technically set up correctly, if we were ready to go with this and we were ready to submit the job and hand it in, we would have to make sure that all the links, all the fonts, and everything that are included in here are included in the final folder. Now, InDesign has a fantastic feature where they do this for us, and it's called the package feature. So under File, Package, we are going to have the option here in this window to start packaging our file. And it'll give us some information here, sort of an overview of how many fonts we used and how many images are used here, how many links are within. It'll even warn us if we used RGB. It tells us about all our spot colors and our process inks. And it's a great little summary here of sort of your file and what you did to build it. You can go through each one. You can look at your fonts and your links and colors and all that stuff as well. If you used some plugins, they'll be listed as well. And so a lot of good information in this summary window. If everything looks good, you can proceed to package. But if you have an issue, oftentimes you will see a yellow triangle here telling you something is missing. And so you always want to watch out to make sure you don't see any yellow triangles. Again, that's something you got to watch out for. That means something is going to be missing when you package it. Anyways, so we're going to hit package here. It'll usually tell you to save before it gets to this window, but I guess because I just saved recently, it didn't ask that. But this is your package folder window, and there are some very, very important check boxes you have to make here to make sure that everybody who downloads this or uses this file afterwards is going to be able to open it and see it exactly the way that you built it. So first thing, of course, is your fonts. It is going to copy your fonts that were used within the program, unless it was activated from Adobe or these non-Adobe CJK fonts. And, most custom fonts will be downloaded and therefore they'll be able to be copied. It'll also copy any linked graphics, so any graphics used in the file, whether it's a Photoshop file or JPEG or whatever graphics you've included. And it will also update your links, so it'll make sure that the links that it's using are the latest ones as well. All right, so if you didn't have a chance to update your links, maybe you made a change to one of them, you changed one of the images, whatever, it will update for you before it packages. Down here below, we actually leave these two unchecked, but down here below, you want to include an IDML file. And what an IDML file is basically a older version of InDesign, an older file for older versions of InDesign. So if somebody with an older version needed to open up your file, they'd be able to. You also have the option here of including a PDF, a print PDF. And one thing here is it has presets. So it has options for the type of PDF you may want to create. And so if I choose PDFX 1A 2001, you'll find that in the project booklet, if I go up to page 4, I believe, that in order to get full marks on production, we have to create a press-ready PDFX 1A 2001, which is exactly the one that it will produce for us. Okay, so now when all of this is ready to go, I'm going to actually just put it onto the desktop so you can see how it looks. I'm going to make a new folder. I'm going to call this InDesign package. Okay, I'm going to hit create. And let's package it. So it'll tell you that your fonts are copyright, and to always make sure that you have informed consent to use the fonts, hit OK. And if you have any overset text like this one does, you may want to fix that, or I'm just going to hit OK in this case. And so you'll see now that it does its thing, and I'll just move it out of the way here. I'll also just put this down here. You'll see that we now have a folder on our desktop called InDesign Package. And the InDesign Package folder now has the Park Pass, which is the name of the file. And then inside of it, it's got the fonts that were used, all TrueType fonts. It's got the links that were used. It's got the IDML, remember that's the older version of the InDesign file. It's got the INDD, which is the latest file, and it's also got the PDF. All right, and we can just preview that really quickly. Now this PDF is completely useless because one of the requirements you got to watch out for when you're doing your PDFs is you have to make sure that it includes bleeds and trim marks and registration and document info. And that'll all be covered in a later video on how to export a PDF properly. But it is still nice to be able to create all of those files in one shot, and to also have all of the fonts and links and everything else packaged in one folder without having to go and search your computer and make sure you got everything. I'm just going to chuck this PDF just so that I don't confuse you here. But that is a properly packaged folder. Now, what happens if you're working in Illustrator? So let's say I'm working in Illustrator. I just created this design, and now I'm ready to proceed. And so again, I want to get full marks on my packaging here. So in Illustrator, I would do the same thing. I'd go to File, Package. Okay, and it looks a little different. It looks a little different. And again, the options are very similar. You don't have to create a report. I don't always create a report. It's on by default. You could leave it on. It's up to you. But this will do the same thing. So I can pick my desktop. And this one I'm going to call Illustrator Package. And we'll hit Create. And I'll choose that folder. And it will make a folder within that with that name. It's going to copy the links, it's going to collect the links, it's going to relink everything, and it's going to copy fonts. Just like InDesign, slightly different order, but same exact options. We're going to hit Package. And again, you get that copyright message for fonts. So you always got to hit OK. And it says there's some changes because the legacy format's an older version. That's okay. We'll say OK. And it says it was created successfully. So to view the package, you can press Show Package. So we can click that. It'll take us to the folder on the desktop, and there you go. You can see that we have our links, we have our working file, and we have our report all within the folder. All right, so you can see that that worked quite nicely. Now the reason we don't have any fonts in this case, I'm going to assume, is probably because the fonts are outlined in this case. Yes, they are. And that was a nice, I guess, this is a working file. It actually shouldn't have been outlined. But when you have outlined fonts, they are paths, and that is for another topic. But anyways, hopefully that makes sense. That is how you package out of InDesign and Illustrator. Hopefully it makes sense. And hopefully you can put that to use and get all the marks that you should be getting for that.